Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to Daylight with Dean number 97 on July 17th, 2020. I'm so grateful to have another morning on this side of the ground, as some would say. Grateful to wake up this morning and have this time together. It means more to me than you will know, and it's great to see you today. I want to start in the usual and customary way of enjoying my coffee. There you go. That is good stuff. I'm glad to know that the microphone has, by and large, been working well for everyone. Still have a lot of people who are having a hard time hearing on their phones. And so I'm going to record it just about as loud as I can. And if that's too loud for some of us, if you just turn your volume down, that would help others who are having trouble hearing on their devices hear a little better. So yesterday, my son took a day off, legitimately. Like the day before, he was down here eating breakfast and just said, "I'm not going to work today." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." We're like, "Did you call off?" "No." "Do they know you're not going to be at work?" "No." I'm like, "Well, you're going to go to work today. You don't just not show up." And I said, "If you want to take a day off, talk to your boss, let them know, give them the day you want to take off, and then do that." And so that's what he did that day. He went in and told his boss he wanted to have Thursday off, yesterday off, and he had a day off. And it was so fun because he came down later in the morning and he started making waffles. And they make waffles out of the Bisquick batter, and they use carbonated water, and they follow this recipe my wife has that make delicious waffles. So I was at the grocery store the other day, and they had this brand of light and crispy Belgian waffles. I can't pronounce the name on the blue box, but it begins with a K, Krusteaz. Crustaze, I don't know. And I said, why don't you use this waffle mix to make the waffles? And he was very resistant to it. He's like, I like the way I make them. I like what they are. And I said, okay. I said, well, why don't you just try it? It says Belgian waffle mix. And a little pushback, and he said, okay. So he made it, and he gave me the first round of them, and he's like, "I'm not gonna lie, they're not bad, Dad." Which is just about as good of a compliment as you're gonna get, or as close to a thank you that you're gonna get. But I have to admit, we will probably go back to the Bisquick waffle batter next time we make waffles. And yesterday was also the day that I filmed my message, and that was quite a treat. My friend brought his daughter over, so we had a live studio audience while I was preaching. And last night I got a text from her mother saying that she not only listened to my sermon, but took notes on my sermon. I guess she had her mom's phone or a tablet, and she was typing all these notes while I was preaching. And the mom sent me the notes, and it was as though she was preaching from my sermon notes. And I was very happy to see that the message was landing on a young teenage girl enough that she was able to follow what I was saying and take notes. So I'm looking forward to getting that all put together and our Sunday morning worship experience coming up in 2 days. We'll be wrapping up our series, Jesus Now, and that has been a very enjoyable series for me. Every time I get to talk about Jesus, it's a good Sunday, and really have enjoyed this series of messages. And one of the things that Jesus talked to us about on the Sermon on the Mount, and at different times, he talked to us about kind of living in the moment, living in the moment right now, not worrying about what's ahead, not consumed by figuring out how we're going to do this, that, and the other, how we're going to make this happen and that happen. He talks very clearly to us about living in the moment. And whenever you hear the words of Jesus strongly urging us not to get caught up in trying to control what's not ours to control, it's a challenging thing. It's a challenging thing. And for some of us, this is our Achilles heel. This is our biggest area of challenge. This is where we have the largest room for growth in our lives. My mother was dynamite. What an impact she left on my life. But my mother liked to control things. There was Faye's way and there was the wrong way. Okay, there was Faye's way and a waste of time. You can do it the other way if you want, but Faye's way was always the best way. And I watched my mother struggle to control things in her life that were not hers to control. And it's very damaging to relationships when you try to control things in another person's life that only they can control. So, who do we have control over? I mean, ultimate control over. Newborn baby. Okay. Other than that, okay, maybe an elderly parent that you're providing care for nonstop, maybe. But other than that, we have control of ourselves. We are the only beings, we are the only humans that we are able to control ourselves. And so often I find that we try to control everybody else when there's very important things in our lives that we're abdicating, that we're not controlling, that we're just letting go. And that's a dangerous place to live. It's a dangerous place to live because you will stress yourself out beyond belief trying to control somebody else, trying to control what is not yours to control. I learned pretty young as a teenager that the real, I don't want to say key to success because that's just a cliche, a very important component of living life to the fullest. How's that? Is controlling what you can and not controlling what you can't, and This is the big part. It's almost as if it doesn't really matter. It does matter. I don't know how to say this exactly, so can I have an umbrella of grace as I say this, because it may come out wrong. It's less about living life to the fullest, living the abundant life, is less about what happens to us and how we respond to what happens to us, what we do with what happens to us. Now, the reason I need an umbrella of grace is because there are some horrific things that have happened in life that have happened to us. We've not had control over. And some have very few or infrequent horrible things that happen in their lives, and others it's a daily or weekly or monthly occurrence. I'm not talking about that side of the equation. I'm talking about what do we do? What do we do with what happens to us? Do we trust that Romans 8:28 is true? That God is able to take even the worst thing that happens to us and change it and use it for His purpose and bring about good. Now, I'm not saying that God caused those things to happen. I'm saying when they do happen, God is able to redeem them to bring about good. And we can control our attitude and our actions about the bad things that happen in our life. And oftentimes, we just choose not to. We just choose to hold on to our pain. We choose to hold on to what happened to us, and in some ways use that as an excuse for, I don't know, misbehavior or treating ourselves badly or treating others badly. I know I'm getting really deep here for very early in the morning. I apologize for that. Nobody likes to give up control. And nobody likes to look at what our part is in navigating the bad things that happen in our lives. And we control that. We control how we navigate the landmines in our lives. Yesterday I had just a dear friend send me a text, and she said, "Can we talk for a second?" And I had about 7 minutes. So I called her up, and she just shared with me a heartbreaking situation. And she said, "I don't expect you to have any advice, but I needed to say out loud what took place and get your thoughts." And I said, "Dear friend." And so I had 2 thoughts, and I shared them with her. They weren't profound, they weren't earth-shattering, but they were the 2 things that came to mind as I listened, as I was present listening to her talk. And both of the things that I mentioned were things that she could control, because the crisis was really out of her control. It wasn't something that she did. It was something that took place in someone's life that she deeply loves. And so we just talked, and she said, "That is so helpful, because I am going to take that next step in that area." And immediately she began to say, I can't control this situation, but I can control what I do with it in my life. Oh, is that enough? Today ended up being a lot heavier, a lot quicker than I anticipated it. And I don't know how any of that is landing on you. But I hope that you look at this thing called control, because so many are blind to their need to control everything. And that will mess your life up. Because the only one that you are commissioned with throughout your life to control is you. Your choices, your actions, your behaviors, your attitude. I think we talked about this a while ago, how your attitude is your choice. Now, I understand, like at our house, whenever the kids are very hungry and it's time to sit down to eat, they can't control their hangry. I mean, they're just so hungry and irritable. And as soon as they start to eat, it all changes. I get that. But the things that you can control, the things that we can control, we are powerful human beings that God created in His image. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, called and designed and crafted to do amazing things. And we can take action and move toward those things and help those things become a reality. But what we can't do is control everything else or control everything in that process. And that's why trust is so important. That's why trusting the Lord is so important. Because when you can't control, you have to trust. And I think that's why so many of us struggle with control, because we don't like to trust anyone but us. So I want to invite you to trust. I want to invite you to trust that God has your best interest at heart, that He has good plans for you. Trust that He can be trusted with your life. And I want to invite you to control what only you can control. I want to invite you to control you. Your behaviors, your attitudes, your words, your actions, your thoughts. Oh, I can't control my thoughts. Well, you may not be able to control what enters your mind, but you do get to choose what you dwell on and what stays in your mind and what focuses in your mind, on your mind. And if there's something that's running around up in there that you can't shake, that you don't want to keep thinking about, then take it to the Lord. Say, God, I don't know why I keep thinking about this, but it's driving me bonkers, and I'm struggling, and I don't want to focus on this, and so I want to give it to you. Please work in this situation and remove this burden from me and my mind. There are so many things that we get to control that we often forfeit. And so now, I would just like to pray for you, because the closer we walk with the Lord, the closer His Spirit, the more control His Spirit has in our hearts and in our lives, the more of the fruit of the Spirit we will live with. And there's like 9 of them. And one of them's joy, and we talked about that. But there's this one that we like to neglect talking about. It's self-control. The closer we are to the Lord, the more self-control we will have, because we will yield our desires to the Lord, surrender them to Him and His control, and be able to control what we can control. So I want to close our time with prayer now. Father, I thank you so much for just the opportunity to take this snapshot and deep dive into control issues this morning. And Father, I pray for my friends that, as we all do on some level, that are really struggling with what they can control and what they can't control. I pray that you would bring them peace as they trust you. And Father, I pray that ultimately we would surrender control of our lives to you, because you can be trusted. Surrender our plans to you. Surrender our future to you, because there is nothing like living life surrendered and yielded to you. And now, Lord, I ask that you would stir in the spirit and soul of everyone listening what's next for them. Some of my friends are so wrestling with what's next, Lord. What do you have for me? And I pray, Lord, that today you would reveal that to them a little bit more. Help them take one more step toward that. Lord, I pray that you would frighten them with what you are inviting them to do. Because if it doesn't frighten them, they can do it on their own. But if it frightens them, and if it's of you, then they'll have to rely on you. Father, may we walk closely with you today. Thank you for the invitation to do our day together with you. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you, everybody. Cannot wait to see you tomorrow morning for Daylight number 98. God bless you. We'll see you. Bye.